Welcome to the Poetic Resurrection Podcast, where we explore perceptions. How self-reflecting questions can give you a better understanding of self. I'm your host, Sonia Iris Lozada. Stay tuned. Welcome to the January episode. As many of you know, I have slowed down the podcast over the holidays. I thought I would get a head start and work on creating new episodes and possibly have more episodes during the month. Well, that didn't happen. On January 3rd, I lost my mother, and I dedicate this episode to her. She had had dementia for several years, but after several falls which led to brain bleeds, which she bounced back from, and we thought it was getting better. On January 2nd, I saw my mother at the nursing home via FaceTime, and she was being her feisty self, and my sister was by her side. My mother had a habit, as we were children, to always kiss us on the forehead. My sister kissed her on the forehead several times, and Mom had this big smile on her face. I said, "Look at her smile." It was beautiful. The feeling that I received from her smile was as if she was stating, "It's okay to go now. I know love." I couldn't sleep that night, but I also accepted that if she wanted to leave us, it was okay. I didn't want her to suffer. Those words are hard to say, but I felt I was being selfish because knowing her personality, she didn't want to live the way that she was living. She passed the following morning. To state I miss her is an understatement. I don't know how to feel. There's an emptiness and numbness. I flew to Chicago for the wake and the funeral. It was surreal. She looked as if she was sleeping in the coffin. I spoke at the wake and told a funny story about my mom, and the next day at the funeral, I read the poem I wrote about her called Warm, because that's how she was. The poem, which I will read at the end of this podcast, states how she kissed me on the forehead. The poem is several years old. Synchronicity is strange, isn't it? I am mourning. The APA Dictionary of Psychology states, mourning is the process of feeling or expressing grief following the death of a loved one, or the period during which this occurs. It typically involves apathy and dejection, loss of interest in the outside world, and diminution in activity and initiative. Bereavement and grief are similar in definition, but different. Wikipedia states the following: grief is a response to loss, particularly to the loss of someone or some living thing that has died, to which a bond or affection was formed. Although conventionality focus on the emotional response to loss, grief also has physical, cognitive, behavioral, social, cultural, spiritual, and philosophical dimensions. While the terms are often used interchangeably, bereavement refers to the state of loss, while grief is a reaction to that loss. Death of a parent for an adult. As you get older, many expect it to be easy to lose a parent because you have had many years, and it's expected. It's not easy, especially when the parent is loving and caring. Wikipedia: when an adult child loses a parent in later adulthood, it is considered to be timely and to be a normative life course event. This allows the adult children to feel a permitted level of grief. However, research shows that the death of a parent in an adult midlife is not a normative event by any measure, but is a major life transition causing an evaluation of one's own life or mortality. Others may shut out the family and friends in processing the loss of someone with whom they have had the longest relationship. I've been studying grief and what to expect and work through during this difficult time. I've enrolled in grief counseling, taking a meditation course on grief, and learning to be kind to myself during this process. I know I will dip in and out of grief. As mentioned to me, it never goes away, but it can't subside. There was a card made from the funeral home in honor of my mom. My mom was religious, and we picked the following poem to match her beliefs and how we felt about her. Our mother's love has no strings attached. It was unconditional, truly unmatched. She stood by us through thick and thin. She was strong in faith from deep within. Everything she did was with us in mind, a giving mother, the unselfish kind. She lived her life with little regret. Our cherished memories we will never forget. She put us first above everything. For her now, God's angels sing. Though invisible to our eyes thus, she will always be watching over us. She's in heaven now, and with all her family who has passed, she is with her glorious host, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. As a lover and writer of quotes, I find knowledge in them. Here are some quotes that have comforted me. When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Author unknown. The life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living. Marcus T. Cicero. Grief is not a disorder, a disease, or a sign of weakness. It is an emotional, physical, and spiritual necessity. Price you pay for love. The only cure for grief is to grieve. Earl Rollman. There is a sacredness in tears. They are not the mark of weakness, but of power. They speak more eloquently than 10,000 tongues. They are the messengers of overwhelming grief, of deep contrition, and of unspeakable love. Washington Irving. Grief changes shape, but it never ends. Keanu Reeves. The life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living. Marcus T. Cicero. I wish anyone that is going through grief to be kind to themselves. Some helpful self-tips that have helped me are meditation. There are many great apps that are free, like Insight Timer, in which I am a teacher there. The link is at the bottom. Prayer. Whether religious or secular, there's a healing feeling to them. Wayne Dyer once stated, and I paraphrase, prayer is when you talk to God, and meditation is when you hear God. We can interchange God with higher energy, higher self, universal knowledge, whichever is your belief. Keep a journal. Keep in touch with family and friends. Pamper yourself. Be kind and patient with yourself. Seek help. Take it one day at a time. Eat a well-balanced diet. Drink plenty of water. Avoid using excessive alcohol, medications, or drugs to mask the pain. Try to keep up basic hygiene. Remember basic grooming and appearance. Get enough sleep, but if you can't sleep, just lie down, close your eyes, and rest. Get some kind of exercise. Even walking can help relieve stress and tension. If all possible, try to maintain some type of normal routine, such as sleeping and eating at your regular times. This is the poem Warm from Inspire Me Perception, and also in the newly released compilation book, Inspire Me Series Book 1 and 2. Warm. Loving smile, warm embrace, gentle forehead kiss, singing me to sleep. Sad child, needing safety. Warm drops cascade face. She wipes them. Years pass, fragile in time, wrinkled smile, love's blank gazes. Destiny gifted you, being loved, a blessing, devotion everlasting, ease in loving you, Mom. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. I wish you love, happiness, and many blessings. Thank you for listening to the Poetic Resurrection Podcast, available on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Music, and many other podcast platforms. Please visit us and subscribe to our newsletter at poeticresurrection.com for the latest information and updates.